So that story of Bartimaeus in the gospel today is a great story. It's very, very vivid. You see this blind beggar crying out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, and just cries out. And then the disciples around him shush him, and he's like, be quiet, don't disturb the master. But he cries out all the more, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And then finally Jesus hears him and says, call him to me. And when he comes to Jesus, Jesus asks him, what do you want me to do for you? And that's such an important question in the Gospels. It's such an important question that Jesus asks over and over again. What do you want? What are your desires? That's also a really key question for Ignatian spirituality. As we try to discern God's call to us, God's will to us, one of the chief ways of doing that is to prayerfully reflect on what are the desires that Jesus puts in our hearts. Not so much the superficial desires and wants, but the deeper desires, the real deep desires. And so we should today ask Jesus to say to us, as he said to Bartimaeus, what do you want? That's how we know our calling in life. Early in life, that's how we know whether we're called to marriage or religious life or priesthood or single life. That's how we discover how we're called to serve, whether it be in one of the professions, maybe medicine, nursing, teaching, social work, business. That's how we know how we're being called to serve as disciples. It's what do we want? I'm always amazed at our teachers in the school and how they have a passion for teaching, and they really have felt called to teaching. And I know people who really felt called to medicine and to medical professions. And I know people like Father RJ, before he was a Jesuit, was real called to be a social worker and serve in that way. So that we experience those different calls. As I look at my own life, my own desire to be a Jesuit priest started when I was a senior in high school, and we had a senior retreat at a Holy Hill in Wisconsin. If you know Hubertus, it's a Carmelite monastery up on a hill. It's really beautiful. It's consecrated as a national shrine and a basilica. It's a very beautiful place. And I was on a retreat there, and our retreat director asked us, it was a boys' school, and the retreat director asked us to pray about how we would serve Christ with our lives. And you probably heard me say this story before because I've shared it many times. But if you haven't, here you go. I was kind of a math science geek in high school, a member of the science club, and my dad worked at the big life insurance company in Milwaukee. And my dad told me about this profession called being an actuary. And actuaries use a lot of math and statistics, and they make a lot of money. I don't know if there are any actuaries out there, but I know actuaries make a lot of money. And so that attracted me. My dad introduced me to this vice president who was an actuary and had this big fancy office, and I thought, well, that looked pretty good to me as a senior in high school. But then when I prayed about it, I thought, does God really need more actuaries? It's a good profession, it's a noble profession, but does God really need more actuaries, or does God need more Jesuits and more priests? Which I was at a Jesuit high school at the time, and I thought that's really more what God needs is Jesuits and priests rather than actuaries, and that appealed to me. And it's been a really good life, and it continues to be a good life to this day. That was back in 1964, a couple years ago, over 50 years ago. Just recently, when I was praying over this passage, and I asked God, or I asked myself, and I prayed over, what are my desires in life right now? What do I desire right now? And what came to me on this 6th year of my being pastor is I have a desire to retire at the end of this year. That was a desire that came forth in me. It would be the end of my 6-year term. I think we've accomplished a lot with our building project, with establishing ourselves as the Ignatian parish of the Twin Cities, the Jesuit parish, with all of our Ignatian spirituality and our retreats. Uh, I think we've established a fantastic staff. Our staff is, I wish we could afford to hire more people, but the staff we have, several of whom are here, are just a very dedicated, competent, caring staff. The school is in great shape now under Pat Lofton's leadership, and it's now thriving. Where that 6 years ago it was not. It was really on the decline, sadly, but the school is now thriving, and we're approaching financial stability. And we have Father RJ on deck, so that is a good thing. I think he's ready and willing and even eager. So I think I can step aside and do that with, and not feel any guilt about it. Because let RJ take over. It's next for the next team we're doing as we pass the baton. Again, I'll be 76 years old next June, and quite honestly, I want a break, and I wouldn't mind taking a little sabbatical. And but I will stay fully engaged, obviously, for the rest of this year. And it's not, I don't do this lightly or easily, because it's, I love all of you guys and I love our parish, but I do feel like I'll be leaving the parish in good hands with all of you, our lay leadership, our wonderful staff, and with Father RJ. So these are some examples of discernment from my own life. And again, I invite all of you to prayerfully think about what are your deepest desires? I think it's a great exercise in prayer, just to be quiet and to listen to your heart and say, what do I really desire at this point in my life? Again, not the superficial wants and preferences, but the deeper desires, the deeper ones. As a young person, we have some young people here, where you're called to go to school, what you're called to major in, what you might be called to serve. As a young adult, what form of service the Lord might be calling into in terms of a profession or lifestyle. But whatever stage of life you're in, you can look at how the Lord is calling you now. You're never too young and you're never too old to hear and respond to God's call. So, and again, as I've mentioned already, one of the best ways to do that is just to prayerfully listen to your heart and let Jesus ask you, as Jesus asked Bartimaeus, what do you desire? What do you want? And just really pray over that and let God, let the answer come forth from your heart. Let it lift up in your heart. And it's a great way to live your life. I can tell you that as an older guy, that it's been just a great way to live life, is to try to pay attention to how is God calling me at this time in my life. It's not a once and for all thing. I was called to marriage, I was called to priesthood, or I was called to religious life. No, it's something that happens throughout our lives. Because once you're married, well, now what? When you have your kids, and how many kids to have, and how to raise your kids, and where to send them to school, and how to raise them in the faith, and et cetera, et cetera. And when you hit midlife, and how am I being called to volunteer? And when you hit retirement age, what now? What do I do? What do I do in retirement? How am I called to serve? So this is it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done thing. So I just pray that all of us can really stay attuned to how the Lord is calling us to what are our desires. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.